Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? Welcome to Labor Forward. My name is Alexia Kulwiec, and I'm one of the faculty here at University of Wisconsin School for Workers. And I have with me today from the Association of Professional Flight Attendants, Josh Black, who is the National Secretary, and Erick Harris, who is the National Treasurer. And I might add that the two of them, along with President Julie Hendricks and National Vice President Larry Salas, were recently all re-elected as executive officers to APFA. So that's really great, and we congratulate them for that. And so I've asked them to join us to talk a little bit today about some of the work that they're doing. And I will just share with you that I had the amazing opportunity to go work with them recently at their national convention. And one of the reasons I thought you guys would be such a great fit for this program is we really like to share stories of unions and what folks are doing and how they're mobilizing, et cetera. And I got on the airplane, which was American. So of course the membership was the Association of Professional Flight Attendants, and everyone had on their new lanyards that they're ready, right? And I was so excited by that. And of course, they were a little taken aback by my trying to engage in conversation about it. But it just emphasized how much work you guys are doing, mobilizing and organizing. And I thought it was really exciting. So what we do know is that the flight attendants have been negotiating with American Airlines for quite some time. And so we thought we would start out with Erick just giving us a little bit of information on the background of these negotiations and sort of what's going on between the union and American.
Yes, thank you, Alexia. Very proud to represent APFA here. I've been a flight attendant for American Airlines for 10 years, and I'm based in Philadelphia, as well as being the national treasurer for second term. So when it comes to negotiations, we are at a point that the company and the union, we are in mediated sessions, and under the Railway Labor Act, we are our sessions are mediated. So maybe I'll take it back. Our contracts are governed under the Railway Labor Act, and under the Railway Labor Act, we have Section 6 negotiations, and those negotiations we actually opened early in 2018, and we began negotiations, but the global pandemic happened and we had to pause negotiations and focus on keeping our jobs at the time. And then about 2 years ago, we got back to the table and got to negotiations and made a lot of progress. And we got to the point where we filed for federal mediation. And we've been in mediated talks since June of last year, I believe. Josh will correct me if I'm wrong.
Can I stop you for 1 second, Erick? So
Yes.
under the RLA, I just want to make sure I have this right. The parties start to bargain. If one
Yes.
party wants to go to mediation, you're required, and then you can't do any additional actions or anything
Right.
until the National Mediation Board, quote, releases the parties, right?
That's right. So for us,
Okay, so it's a little-
we are not real. We can't engage in any self-help without the approval of the National Mediation Board. So our release to self-help comes from the NMB saying that the parties are in an impasse, which is very different than you'll see in NLRA. And then our contracts become amendable. So we continue working under the current agreement until a new agreement is reached. So we've been working under pay and work rules that became amendable in 2019. So they're 5 years old at this point. And the reason we've been in negotiations for this amount of time is because of the RLA process and Section 6 process. And then
How's negotiations progressing? I mean, like in terms of being able to reach any improved benefits, how is that going?
So we have secured some gains in some areas, but we still remain apart on certain things. We've done a really good job. Our negotiating committee has done a phenomenal job of narrowing down our ask, because our goal is to get the contract that we deserve, an industry-leading contract. But we also are showing the National Mediation Board that we are willing to work towards a deal. And if we don't get a deal, then we need to be released. Unfortunately, the employer is not doing the same. They have this economic framework in their head of what they want to pay flight attendants, but we are not accepting that.
Got it. Yeah. And how long has it been since the flight attendants have had raises?
Since 2019, so 5 years. Yes.
And with the rate of inflation, I mean, all of our flight attendants are really struggling, but especially the newer flight attendants. These wages were, negotiated almost 10 years ago. And 5 years ago, they became amendable. So our newer members are going to cities like Boston, New York. Really all of the bases that we have are really expensive and they're struggling to make ends meet. Many of our members are having to apply for food stamps even, which is truly unfortunate.
And then our CEO recently, it was announced that he received a $30 million compensation package in the middle of all of this. So that's adding a lot of pressure on the company. And we're putting a lot of pressure on them as to, showing up to the table and getting us the raises that we deserve, especially if our CEO can have a $30 million raise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or almost double, I would say. Yeah.
Oh, that was almost. So, one thing about your organization and about taking action is that, of course, under the RLA, you are negotiating things at a national level, right? Your bargaining unit is the flight attendants for American across the country. And so I was wondering, I think maybe Josh, you had said that you might speak a little bit to the structure and how on earth you're able to do that on such a wide scale.
Yeah, it is a huge feat for sure. We have 27,000 members and growing still. So being able to reach all of these members is really multifaceted. There's a lot of different ways that we go about it. We have 10 bases in the United States, spread out across the country. And our format for organizing kind of started in 2022 when we first went to Labor Notes, and we got a lot of ideas from Labor Notes. In fact, we'll be there this weekend, so anyone there, feel free to come hang out with us.
Yeah.
But a lot of the ideas that came from Labor Notes, one of the biggest ones was the formation of a CAT team, and having a really strong contract action team. So at each of our 10 bases, we have some CAT team leads along with our base president and base vice president. We have base representatives there too. And all of these individuals are really important for organizing events that we have, getting out information and things like that. We host system pickets where we have informational pickets at each of our bases. And those, I think we've had probably, what would you say, Eric, maybe 10 or 12 since 2022, 2021 timeframe. And those help to get our message into the media on the local level. And then on the national level, we have a bigger organizing campaigns as well. So some of the things that we do that we've employed that we learned from Labor Notes too, we have marched on the boss, where we delivered a letter of no confidence in our senior VP, Brady Burns, and that garnered a lot of internal attention in our company and really helped us at the bargaining table as well. It ended up with, the company putting out a statement on us wearing our red t-shirts to our training, and it ended up turning into a presidential grievance that we filed that really fired the flight attendants up. So, different campaigns like that. We've staged.
Let me just stop you for 1 second. Because I think it's an important thing, the CAT team, and of course, many unions have implemented CAT teams during bargaining. It sounds like it's something that you might want to continue, contract action team. But these are folks, right, that are not your regular staff people or representatives, but just engaged as activists as a way. And are there CAT team members in each of these bases?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're all flight attendants. They signed up for it, and they're more of, obviously, the more engaged members that really want to help get the message
Sure.
out.
Yeah, no, that's fabulous. So I think I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just sort of wanted to make that point. But so yeah, I'm curious about how the structure has helped you in the organizing. That it sounds like that has allowed you to reach out to more people and start taking bigger actions.
Yeah, to bring it back to the CAT team, they have been critical for a lot of individual campaigns too. Eric talked about, release from the National Mediation Board and that request. We put in a request for release twice now. But preceding that, we needed to take a strike authorization vote. And we knew that we needed a high voter turnout, not only just that so that we had a strike vote that passed, but really to solidify and galvanize our membership, and our unity of purpose through that strike vote was really important. And so the contract action team, for a month in, I guess it was September, August was the voting time frame that we had. They were on all of our bases and every single day talking to our members. I don't have my red pin on me, but we have red pins. And Eric's going to show. We call them our
Great.
red war pin. War
You call
stood
them
for.
what?
They're our war pin. We are ready.
Ah,
So the CAT team and the bases, they were responsible for helping our members vote, for the strike vote. And they could very easily see who did and who did not vote by seeing who was wearing their red pin. So once they voted, they got the red war pin. And that was really helpful for getting 93% of our 27,000 members voting. And it ended up resulting in a 99.47% yes vote.
fantastic. Very impressive. And so could you speak a little bit to some of the activities that folks took to make sure that many people participated? Like what sorts of actions, collective activities, communications did folks engage in?
Sure. During that time, the majority of it was one-on-one. We knew we needed that one-on-one connection, in order for us to really reach every single flight attendant, because we have such a massive work group. So there was the one-on-one interaction, but twofold, we also had a call center at the national level, where our members could call in and ask questions, get help, and things like that. And then near the end of the strike vote, we had outbound calling for those last few members who took their time voting. We did outbound calling for those individuals. And then our CAT team in the bases, they texted their friends, they texted anyone that they knew in the base, really anything that they could do to have that one-on-one touch point. Yep.
Got it. Yeah, and for either of you, so that took place in August. We're sitting here in April. It's not surprising because you're under the National Mediation Board, which really the structure is not designed to move quickly nor release you to self-help quickly either. So I presume you've had to continue activities to keep people involved and engaged and paying attention to these negotiations, right? Like it's really hard to keep people in momentum when you've got this kind of thing going. So what sort of things have been happening?
So for us, it's difficult sometimes because we have 27,000 members all over the country and sometimes all over the world, depending on where they're flying to. So like Josh said, it really depended on those one-on-one conversations. Our CAT team members, they wear these red badge backers on their lanyards on our company ID. So if you're working a flight or you're in the terminal, you see someone with it, you can have that conversation with them. They do the monthly catwalks where they're walking in the terminal. They have union gear and union swag and just having those conversations. We communicate a lot via email from our negotiating committee, and they can get a bit detailed. So having those conversations, a flight attendant can stop and say, what was that last update really about? Or where are we in the process? Or what's taking so long? And as you can imagine, taking a strike vote in August of last year and requesting to be released twice from the National Mediation Board, they're generates a lot of frustration from the members, and
Yeah,
and having to keep them engaged is a lot of work. And reminding them that this is part of the fight, and we are not only putting pressure on the company, but we are also showing the mediation, the NMB, that we need to be released. So it's a
right.
lot of work.
And social
So,
media has
gotcha.
been a really strong tool for us to keep our members engaged. We frequently have, photos of our pickets and things like that going out. But we have other events that we stage too. We'll have one coming up next week. Our company hosts what they call State of the Airline, where they boast their profits and all the great things that the company is doing. And we show up in mass in our red shirts and tell the true story. So when it comes to a question, our members are there to talk to our leadership, our company's leadership, and actually shed light on what's going on. And then that in turn gets shared on social media and fires the flight attendants up. It's hard to get everyone engaged and involved when, half of our membership are flying or in different cities. But we find ways
Yeah.
to.
It's such a challenge. And, I want to say you both emphasize the one-on-one discussions, which is always so necessary, but you've been consistently engaged in collective activities, right? You've talked about marching on the boss. You talked about getting your contract action. I love this walking through the terminals. That's new, right? So like people didn't used to see their union people at work at the airport so much, right? Because everybody's spread out so much. Is that right?
Yes.
And then what about the day of action that took place recently? Why don't you speak to that if folks haven't been aware?
So the Worldwide Day of Action for us was huge. It was an
And
opportunity.
Eric, maybe define huge, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, I should do that. Sorry. It was a moment of solidarity across all the flight attendant unions and the flight attendants in their different carriers, and represented by three unions, which was AFA, CWA, APFA, our union, and CW, which represents Southwest, JetBlue, and Allegiant Airlines. And the majority of us were in negotiations, I believe all except JetBlue. And we were all negotiating at the same time. A lot of regional carriers who are represented by AFA are in negotiations as well. And it was an opportunity for all of us to show up together and show our strength collectively. There was over 100,000 flight attendants that are represented by the unions, those three unions. And we also had non-unionized flight attendants, such as Delta flight attendants, who joined us on that day of action as well. And it was showing the flight attendants and showing management and the labor movement that we are standing together, we're strong together, we're better together. And we couldn't do it without each other.
Right. And I think that's so important because it shows the airlines that you've got this strike vote.
Yep.
All these folks came out across the country for the day of action. It really is tremendous. If folks are watching, I encourage you to go to the APFA website or look at local news items about the event because it really was pretty cool. But it shows that strength that you guys are ready to stand together to take action. And that's something we talk a lot about here is, it's not just what happens at the bargaining table, but people coming together and say, yeah, we're willing to take action to back this up. And I think that particular day was such a powerful message. It's really exciting. Yeah.
And one critical part of
we
what's this?
shared this button where it has the different unions together. So it was a token for every flight attendant who showed up on that day and what that really looked like. And I believe at least for our members, they really got to see how important it is for us to work together and to see that we all are in the same fight at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what's really important about it is, we've requested for a release from the Federal Mediation Board twice now. And one of the purposes of this day of action was a really clear message to our government officials too, that it's not just us that are in the same position. We have multiple carriers in the industry that are asking to be released and taking strike votes right now. So, they're going to have to figure out how to get these companies to agree to bargain in good faith, and showing the public, but also the government, that we stand together was really important to getting that message across.
Yeah, and Josh, isn't the union taking some kind of action to encourage folks to contact government and contact government officials to try to encourage the National Mediation Board to release the union?
Yeah, right now we're doing a one-click politics to have our members and the general public contact government officials to get this moving. I want to be clear, we could have an agreement, right? Our management is stonewalling our efforts on this rigid framework that they're saying they will only match the industry. They're not going to break out. And with where all of the bargaining units are right now, someone has to break out. And American, being the largest airline in the world, with record-breaking profits and all of CEO compensation bonuses, it's time that they break out.
Right. Yeah.
And I would add to the efforts we're doing with the one click. We're seeing the new generation of flight attendants who have never been part of Section 6 process under the RLA, and some of our more seasoned flight attendants who have been in that process but have forgotten because it's been a while since we've been in the Section 6 negotiations, but really shining a light on the RLA process, especially when we see our siblings at other unions under the NLRA being able to have self-help more readily accessible than we can. It's causing a lot of conversations amongst our members on the RLA process and how it's impacting workers.
Yeah, and again, I just want to confirm, make sure I understand it right, and for folks listening or watching, you're negotiating with the National Mediation Board, and then the mediation board can, quote, release the parties to engage in self-help. But even at that point, isn't there still a 30-day cooling off period? Yeah, right. So there's really a series of obstacles that make it harder to engage in collective action, or at least strike activity, right, under the Railway Labor Act.
Yeah, under the RLA, it's first a proffer of arbitration. And if either side declines arbitration, then it goes into a 30-day cooling off period. But even then, so that's the super mediation period. But even then, the President of the United States could create what's known as the PEB, Presidential Emergency Board. And then, that whole process starts too. So it is quite the obstacle.
Yeah. And so I think seeing that your members are really engaged right now is really impressive. And what do you attribute that to, right? So it does seem like they're more engaged than perhaps in prior years, right?
They're pissed.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're organizing, right?
Yes.
We're organizing, but we're able to organize and funnel their anger in an area. One of the things that has really helped us that we haven't talked about in bargaining is our transparency in bargaining. We've never had transparent bargaining in our history at this union, and this is the first this is the first time that our flight attendants see exactly what's going on in bargaining. Our website, I encourage you to check it out, apfa.org. We have a tab on negotiations, and we break down exactly what's being passed at the table on either side. So our members are part of bargaining. They're not waiting for an agreement to get agreed on, and then they learn about it at the end. They know exactly what's going on. And that's one of the things that's really fired them up, is when they see, what our management is proposing in bargaining. And it also puts our management in a defensive position where they can't really put out, pardon my French, these bullshit proposals. They actually have to have a little bit more realistic proposals in bargaining too.
Sure. Yeah, that
And
makes a lot of
it's
sense.
made the conversations a lot more productive, the one-on-one conversations, because our contract action team members can show them on the website, you know, dispel a lot of rumors. Obviously, we have lots of rumors. I heard they've asked for this, or I heard the union's taking this away, or all of that. And the members, the contract action team members can say, no, it's right here. You can see it. And
Yeah.
it was a bold move and a bit of a risky move, we'll say, but we knew that it was time, that our members have the transparency in negotiations, because in the past our negotiators would negotiate for a few years and then just say, here you go, vote on this in 30 days. But now they're being educated along the way. And really, it's hard to find an American Airlines flight attendant who doesn't know what we're negotiating for.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
really fantastic. I want to real quick. So Josh, you had mentioned showing photos of pickets. So I guess my question is sort of, can you speak to that? Like, what other public actions has there been?
Recently, we staged a picket on Wall Street. American had a investor day, and so we showed up on Wall Street to picket that. We have staged pickets at American Airlines headquarters. We call them pop-up pickets, where we'll send out a text message to, say the DFW flight attendants, for example, and we show up en masse to American Airlines headquarters and picket there. Eric, what other types of events have we done?
That's awesome.
We've done the March on the Boss. We're doing the one-click campaigns. We've done Christmas cards during the holidays. Our members wrote to our CEO and all the folks in the C-suite, letting them know what Christmas looks like for them compared to what the CEO's Christmas would look like, and how our members are struggling. And like Josh said earlier, our new hires are going into the most expensive cities. And these are the cities that our company is making the most profit from.
Right.
And those Christmas cards, that was kind of like a second March of the Boss. We went up there a week before Christmas and dumped them on our CEO's desk. There were a few thousand of them that are flying. That was another thing our CAT team members were able to do. They were in the terminal with those cards, and people were able to handwrite them. Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous. Yeah. Yeah. And so what's next, or sort of like what do you expect to see in the next, say, couple of months?
So we've got we'll be at Labor Notes this weekend. Tomorrow we have a picket staged at Chicago O'Hare Airport for anyone flying in. Come join us on the picket line. It's from 1
Great. Yeah.
to 3. And then we have a system-wide picket scheduled for later this month. I forget the date off the top of my head. And we'll just keep, heating things up. We've got strike handbooks that are going to be mailed out to all of our members that we're working on finalizing. With where we're at with the National Mediation Board, we want our members to be ready in the event that we do get released.
Right. Okay. So, it sounds, I have sort of two comments or thoughts. One is, it just sounds like name of the game is keeping everybody engaged, so that if you do get the release from the National Mediation Board, you're ready to take action. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
That's really
We're prepared in
exciting.
both ways. We're prepared for the strike, or if there's a TA that comes around.
Right. You're still bargaining in good faith and hoping to work it out, right? That's always the name of the game.
And after we had a face-to-face conversation with the National Mediation Board in Washington in March, and they ordered us back to meet more often. So we have 3 weeks in a row, Josh, of mediated sessions. We were meeting 1 week a month prior. So that's progress there. That gets us closer to a deal.
Awesome. I want to say I did look at your website that Josh had mentioned going to, and if you're interested in doing the one click or in contacting, a representative to encourage the NMB to release, it's crystal clear how you can do that and how you can help on the APFA website, which I think is great. And any other, let's just sort of like any other final thoughts or things that you would like to share with people about the the actions lately of the APFA?
I would like to say, we talked earlier about working together, the Worldwide Day of Action, and
Mhm.
our members really seeing what working together looks like. And we have to always shout out AFA and Joe Burns, because without them and without him, we wouldn't be where we are today in negotiations. So we always have to acknowledge what working together looks like, because we are very, we've made a lot of progress in negotiations, and it's been from their partnership and Joe's leadership with the negotiating committee.
All right, great. Yeah, thank you. Josh?
Yeah, I'd piggyback off of that. I can't understate how much solidarity, how important solidarity is, especially, we're an independent union only representing American Airlines flight attendants, but understanding that it's not just our fight, like it's not even just the flight attendants in the industry fight, it's all of our fight against corporate greed. And, working together is really what has gotten us to where we are now. We couldn't have done this alone, and just excited to see what the future holds.
Well, thank you both so much. I'll just share that we had one comment from someone here locally who is an SEIU nurse, who had written in and said solidarity from her, but she had to run to work. So I like ending on that and recognizing the power of all of you folks working together to really move forward on this, and obviously wish you the absolute best in negotiations. So thank you so much for joining us and doing our Labor Forward this month. We really appreciate it.
We appreciate having us. Thank you, Alexia.
Thanks so much. Take care.